What exactly is Korean BL, and why are so many rising stars risking everything to be part of it? This isn't just about romance, it's about redefining love, masculinity, and courage in front of millions. From stolen glances to groundbreaking kisses, these actors aren't just acting, they're starting conversations Korea was once too afraid to have. And the results? Beautiful, bold, and unforgettable. When Park Jae-chan first appeared in public as a member of DKZ, he was a typical K-pop rookie, young, bright, full of mysterious charisma. No one could have guessed that, just a few years later, he would become a pioneer for LGBTQ+ representation in Korean pop culture. In 2022, Jae-chan took on the lead role in Semantic Error, a BL, boys love, drama set in a school that not only breaks stereotypes but also shatters them. He plays Chu Sang-woo, a cold, stereotypical computer science student whose worldview is turned upside down by a rebellious art student. The role required subtlety, nuance, and emotional depth, and Jae-chan delivered in a way that left fans breathless. But what really sets his performance apart is not just his chemistry with co-star Park Seo-ham, which has taken the screen by storm and become a worldwide trend. It's the way Jae-chan shows vulnerability without fear. In a culture where idols are often boxed into safe, carefully filtered images, he dares to show the raw affection, longing, and heartbreak between two men, without ever trying to be funny or create distance. Behind the scenes, he's just as thoughtful. In interviews, he's thoughtfully shared the importance of telling LGBTQ+ stories authentically, not for fan service, but as real emotional journeys. His openness has earned praise not just from fans, but also from queer audiences, who finally see their lives reflected with care and dignity. The success of Semantic Error was explosive. It topped streaming charts in Korea and elsewhere, igniting international fandoms and redefining what a BL drama could be in the mainstream. But more importantly, it put Park Jae-chan in a new spotlight, one where he wasn't just an idol or an actor, but a symbol of quiet courage. He wasn't making a grand political statement. He didn't need to. He was just telling a love story like any other. And that in itself was revolutionary. Today, as DKZ continues to rise in the music scene, Jae-chan's influence on screen still resonates. In every fan who says they feel seen, in every actor now unafraid to take on a gay role, and in each viewer who is slowly learning that love, in all its forms, deserves to be shown in the light. What's even more touching is how Park Jae-chan has handled the subsequent fame. Unlike many idols who shy away from LGBTQ+ questions, he's been straightforward. When asked if he was afraid of backlash, he simply said that this story was worth telling. He didn't need to label himself or shy away from the role. That quiet empathy, the willingness to see gay love as just love, meant a lot to many. It also paved the way for BL dramas to no longer be seen as gimmicky farces, but as a mainstream genre with heart, humor, and humanity. And, in the ever-evolving world of K-dramas, Semantic Error is now a reference point. It was a drama that grabbed attention, opened doors, and proved that audiences were ready for more. And it was all thanks to one young idol who took a chance, not just on a role, but on rewriting the narrative of love on screen. But while Park Jae-chan helped spark a movement, another rising star brought quiet intensity and charisma to his own gay love story. That star was Kim Ji-woong. Kim Ji-woong didn't just burst into the world of BL, he glided in. Soft-spoken, mysterious, and with cheekbones sharp enough to pierce awkward silences, the former survival show contestant brought a breath of fresh air to Korean cinema. When he signed on to star in Kissable Lips 2022, most people thought, okay, another BL, let's see where this goes. But what they got wasn't just a vampire-human romance, it was a smoldering fire of darkness and desire. Driven almost entirely by Ji-woong's quiet intensity and eyes that say more in a single glance than most actors do in monologues. In Kissable Lips, Ji-woong plays Kim Jun-ho, a heartbroken vampire who's bored with his immortal existence until a sweet, fragile human boy makes him feel alive again. And while the plot dips into fantasy, Ji-woong's performance is surprisingly grounded, painful, and tender. Every glance is emotionally charged. every silence has weight. This isn't just a fan-pleasing BL melodrama, it's romantic tension done right. And let's be honest, only Ji-woong can make biting someone's neck feel Shakespearean. What's even more surprising is Roommates of Pungduk 304, where Ji-woong turns things around. The melancholy immortal is gone. Ji-hoon, an arrogant conglomerate heir, forced to live with a straight-laced roommate. Sparks of love? Instantly. But instead of melancholy, Ji-woong brought his humor this time. And he did. Watching him flip between petty bickering, sulking, and sudden outbursts of weakness was as entertaining as watching your college crush accidentally spill coffee on you and laughing about it. His chemistry with co-star Yoon Seo-bin was explosive, and the show became a hit among BL fans and K-drama regulars alike. Off-stage, Ji-woong was equally charming. In interviews, he's been candid about how portraying queer characters taught him more about empathy than any acting class. He doesn't shy away from LGBTQ+ topics. Instead, he embraced them gracefully, saying he hoped his roles would help normalize same-sex love stories in Korean media. No grand speeches, no forced moralizing, just a sincere artist doing what he loves, and doing it well. Fans quickly realized that Ji-woong didn't just play his roles, he elevated them. He brought depth to genres that were often considered bland or obscure. His roles helped young audiences, and especially queer audiences, feel recognized, seen, and appreciated. Suddenly, BL wasn't just a trend. It was a legitimate platform for connection, emotion, and storytelling that transcended gender or sexual orientation. And then there was the charm. The sneaky type. One minute he's brooding in a corner, the next he's winking during an interview, making the whole room giggle. He's the kind of guy who can read a grocery list and still be a hit on Twitter. No wonder fans call him the Silent Storm, because Ji-woong doesn't need to scream to be memorable. He just shows up, delivers his emotions with all his heart, and lets his work speak louder than words. And as the BL wave in Korea continues to spread, Kim Ji-woong isn't just leading it, he's shaping it. With each performance, he gently pushes the boundaries of masculinity, love, and vulnerability on screen. But if Ji-woong is the storm that's quietly brewing, Han Ji-chan is the unexpected sunshine, gentle, bright, and a little chaotic in the best way possible. Let's be clear, Han Ji-chan had no intention of becoming a pioneer. In fact, if you had told him back when he was a K-pop trainee that he would one day kiss a boy on screen in Korea's first BL drama, he probably would have laughed nervously. But fate, or maybe just a really great cast, had other plans. When he took on the role of Kang-gook in Where Your Eyes Linger, 2020, Han wasn't just playing a character, he was making history. Where Your Eyes Linger wasn't just Korea's first true boys' love series. It was the kind of show that knew how to say 1,000 things with just one loving look. And Han Ji-chan? He's mastered the art of that look. As a loyal bodyguard with feelings he tries to hide, he brings an emotional restraint that makes every pause feel like a scream. But he's more than just a silent protector. He's a controlled fire. Tense, devoted, always on the verge of breaking. And when he finally does, hearts around the world break and swoon in equal measure. What makes Han's performance all the more compelling is the unexpectedness. At the time, he wasn't a household name. He didn't have the aura of a famous idol or the glamour of a drama king. But that worked to his advantage. The audience had no preconceptions, and that allowed Han to simply be Kang-gook. Raw, real, relatable. His chemistry with co-star Jang Eui-soo is outstanding. Yep, not because it's hot, but because it's sincere. You can see the history in their eyes. The years of unspoken words, the silent pain of unrequited love finally speaking out. And here's the kicker. Han Ji-chan doesn't even try to be too dramatic. He treats this character like any other, with empathy, curiosity, and a stubborn refusal to water down anything. He doesn't play it safe. He plays it real. In doing so, he helps dispel the stereotype that male-male romance in K-dramas has to be metaphorical or satirical. It can be real, relatable, tender, powerful. Behind the scenes, he's said to be just as kind and professional. No celebrity behavior, No pretension, just a guy trying to do his job well and do it well. Fans loved his authenticity, and queer audiences, they finally got to see a love story that didn't end in tragedy, shame, or ambiguity. It ended in hope. Since then, Han Gi-chan has continued to build a career in both acting and modeling. And while he hasn't returned to BL since, his contributions are unforgettable. He didn't shout for LGBTQ+ representation. He stepped into it, quietly, respectfully, and with a gentleness that left a lasting mark. He may not have set out to become an icon, but sometimes all it takes is a brave choice and a timely rooftop confession to make someone an icon. Now, while Han made us cry with his emotional restraint, the next man on our list made our hearts flutter just by walking into the frame. Enter the tall, charming, and utterly memorable Park Seo-ham. Some actors play the role, others become the character. And then there's Park Seo-ham, who somehow manages to do both while towering over everyone else in the room. Standing 6'3" with a jawline as chiseled as an ancient Greek statue, and a look that says, "I own this scene." Even when he's just opening a can of soda, Seo-ham didn't just play Jang Jae-young in Semantic Error. He redefined what a BL male lead should be. Before Semantic Error became a global hit in 2022, Park Seo-ham was best known as a member of KNK, a K-pop group with talent, height, and limited screen time. But when he plays a charismatic, rebellious art major who falls for and falls madly in love with an emotionally constipated computer science nerd, something magical happens. And no, we're not just talking about his leather jacket style, although let's be honest, that's some top-notch style. What makes Seo-ham's performance so addictive isn't just the smirks and the furtive glances. It's the layers. Beneath the cool, flirtatious exterior lies a tenderness, a vulnerability that only comes out at the right moments. The way he looks at Chu Sang-woo, played by Park Chan, isn't just acting. It feels real, like first love. And let's be honest, some of us still haven't forgotten that rooftop scene. You know? Off-screen, Seo-ham is admired for his professionalism, quick wit, and easy charm that never fails to draw attention. He doesn't set out to play gay. He's here to tell a love story, and he does so with heart, respect, and unwavering sincerity. That's why fans around the world, queer and straight, young and old, feel so deeply connected to him. Because he doesn't treat queer love as a performance. He lets it breathe, he lets it be celebrated, and he lives it fully on screen, with grace, honesty, and quiet courage. When Semantic Error went viral, Seo-ham suddenly found himself in the unexpected position of becoming a queer icon in a very conservative industry. And instead of backing down or denying it, he thanked his fans with warmth, even writing heartfelt messages to the international audience who felt understood through his work. He then enlisted in the military shortly after, because of course, nothing says dramatic, like leaving your fans right after you explode online. He's been pretty low-key since then, but his legacy lives on. Park Seo-ham is more than just a BL actor. He's a moment, a phenomenon, a living reminder that love stories, when told with sincerity and tenderness, can go further than anyone expected. And if you've made it this far in the after video, we're guessing your heart has softened a little. Your perspective has broadened a little. That's what stories like this do. They stir something in us. If Park Seo-ham made you smile, swoon, or even rethink your on-screen romance, let us know in the comments. We read them all, and yes, even the all-caps ones. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more meaningful stories, because love, presence, and representation, that's what we're here for. Now, are you ready to meet the man who stole your heart in silence and darkness? Next up, Jang Eui-soo, a man of both elegance and mystery. If BL dramas were a dinner party, Jang Eui-soo would be the guy who shows up in a perfectly tailored suit, brings a bottle of aged red wine, and leaves everyone wondering, wait, who is that? Elegant, grounded, and just mysterious enough to make you lean in, Jang didn't burst onto the queer K-drama scene with fireworks. He strolled in like he'd always belonged there. And by the end of Where Your Eyes Linger, 2020, everyone else was just trying to catch up. Playing Han Tae-ju, the heir to a chaebol family who's casually hiding a decade-long crush on his bodyguard/best friend, Jang delivered a performance that was both quietly heartbreaking and absurdly charismatic. He wasn't afraid to let the silence hang. In fact, he used it like a weapon. Every glance, every pause, every almost touch, it wasn't just romantic tension. It was a masterclass in emotional timing. You didn't just watch him fall in love. You felt it happen, one heartbeat at a time. And let's talk about those eyes. Jang Eui-soo has the kind of gaze that should come with a warning label, may cause temporary loss of rational thought. In scenes where nothing was said, he could still say everything: fear, jealousy, longing, and that devastating moment when hope flickers out just behind the smile. It wasn't melodrama, it was mature, controlled, and dangerously close to real. Jang's approach was just as graceful. He didn't overplay the LGBTQ+ themes, but he didn't undercut them either. He treated the characters' feelings with a natural empathy that resonated deeply with viewers, especially those used to seeing same-sex love stories played for laughs or coded in subtext. He said, with his performance, "This is just love. And love doesn't need to explain itself." The fact that Where Your Eyes Linger was Korea's first breakout BL only added weight to his role. But rather than let the pressure show, Jang embraced it like a true leading man. No fuss, no fear. Just a clear commitment to telling a story that hadn't been given the spotlight before. His chemistry with Han Gi-chan was undeniable, equal parts tension and tenderness, and their dynamic helped set the tone for dozens of BL dramas that would follow. And while some actors in the genre leaned into flash or fan service, Jang went in the opposite direction. He gave us depth, substance, a sense that this genre could be more than cute. It could be cinema, which is kind of what you'd expect from a guy who once said he prepares for roles by observing human loneliness. Yes. Seriously. That's peak actor energy. Since then, Jang has continued taking on diverse roles, from psychological thrillers to romantic dramas, proving that he's not just a BL actor. He's a versatile one. But for many, his role as Tae-ju remains iconic. The boy who loved quietly until he didn't. Now, if Jang Eui-soo was the slow-burning candle that warmed your heart, then Yoon Seo-bin is the spark plug that might just set it on fire. Young, bold, and full of surprises. Let's talk about him next. When Kissable Lips premiered in 2022, no one expected Yoon Seo-bin, then a soft-spoken rookie with a background in survival shows, to become the emotional anchor of a gay vampire romance. But he did. Not by being loud or bold, but by playing a gay character with such calmness, sincerity, and quiet courage that it made gay audiences around the world feel understood. As Choi Min-hyun, a human caught up in an unlikely love story with a centuries-old vampire, Yoon is anything but romantic or dreamy. He becomes the center of the drama, an ordinary guy who makes extraordinary choices. While the vampire crumbles under centuries of shame, Min-hyun remains steadfast. He doesn't beg for love, he gives it unconditionally. His defining moment isn't a flashy gesture, it's a gentle truth. You deserve to be loved too. No drama, no show, just eye contact, steady breathing, and the radical notion that gay people deserve to be loved without having to work for it. This is important. In a genre that's often criticized for glorifying same-sex love or relying on stereotypes, Yoon Seo-bin brings something different, something real. His role isn't fictional, it's about dignity. He doesn't play gay for laughs, he plays gay for truth. And in doing so, he gives LGBTQ+ audiences something we rarely see in K-dramas, a character who doesn't suffer for being gay, but shines for the way he loves. What makes Seo-bin's performance all the more powerful is how natural it is. He doesn't exaggerate, he doesn't try to be iconic, he simply tells the story the way it deserves to be told. There's a moment when he smiles, if only briefly, knowing that the road ahead won't be easy, but choosing to go forward anyway. That single expression captures what so many gay people go through every day. The quiet decision to continue loving in a world that often shuts them out. In interviews, Yoon doesn't brag. He doesn't promote himself as an ally. He doesn't need to. His respect for the role speaks volumes. When asked how it feels to play a gay character, he responds not with distance, but with understanding. He sees the role for what it is, an opportunity to tell a meaningful love story. And in a culture where silence is often the choice over support, that subtle empathy resonates more than any headline. Kissable Lips didn't make a box office splash. It didn't have the flash of major network TV or the K-pop cameos. But it stuck. It carved out a space in the queer narrative, not by shouting, but by whispering the truth. Queer love is love. Beautiful, complicated, ordinary, and worth fighting for. And Yoon Seo-bin helped make that truth real, without ever having to say it out loud. In a world that craves louder voices, Yoon reminds us of the power of gentleness. His performance shows that you don't have to be famous, bombastic, or brave to change someone's heart. Sometimes, just being visible is groundbreaking. And for the LGBTQ+ community, especially those still struggling to be seen, that's the kind of representation that's more than entertaining. It's healing. There's something poetic about a man who made his name through music, becoming the face of one of Korea's most tender gay love stories. Kang In-soo, best known as the soulful lead vocalist of K-pop group My Name, doesn't just sing about love, he steps into its most fragile state when he takes on the lead role in Wish You Your Melody from My Heart, 2020. And in doing so, he doesn't just play a character in a BL drama, he gives voice to a kind of love that has long been hidden. As Yoon Sang-yi, a cold-hearted talent manager who slowly falls for a street performer, Kang In-soo delivers a performance of gentleness and quiet revelations. There are no loud declarations, no exaggerated tension, no tragic secrets lurking in the shadows. Instead, Wish You offers something much more groundbreaking in today's media landscape. A gay love story that's peaceful, safe, kind. In a genre often weighed down by trauma or shame, Kang In-soo's performance offers something fresh, something radical, a vision of love that doesn't have to be painful to be worthwhile. What makes Kang In-soo's performance particularly impressive is his restraint. He doesn't romanticize pain. He doesn't present gay love as taboo or strange. He simply lets it be, gently, steadily, like a song you hum without even realizing it. In his scenes with co-star Lee Sung, the chemistry is built not on passion or provocation, but on trust. And that trust, it changes everything. For many viewers, especially those in the LGBTQ+ community, watching two men fall in love without having to hide, apologize, or be punished for it was a revelation. Even more remarkable was Kang's ease with the role. There was no sense of distance, no awkward press interviews, no forced justifications. He spoke about the project with a simple clarity. It was a story about love, and that was enough. In a culture where actors are often expected to be reticent about anything gay, Kang kept his cool, and by staying still, he stood firm. I wish you hadn't made the kind of splashy dramas that exploded, but it did something deeper. It lingered. It gives young queer audiences, especially in Asia, a quiet space to see themselves, not as sidekicks, jokes, or tragic metaphors, but as people who deserve to be loved, to live their lives, and to have a happy ending. Kang In-soo's character doesn't have to prove his love, he just lives it. And in doing so, he becomes a role model for those who are still afraid to reach out and touch their feelings. And perhaps this is the quiet truth that Kang In-soo brings us, something that the LGBTQ+ community has always understood in its bones. Love doesn't need fireworks to be meaningful, that you don't have to speak up to take up space. And sometimes the boldest, most revolutionary act is simply choosing to be yourself, peacefully, to love gently, to be seen fully, and to do it all without asking for permission. When Son Woo-hyeon entered the world of To My Star, 2021, he was no longer a fresh face trying to make his mark. He was a veteran actor, one who had weathered the upheavals of K-pop idol life, military service, and slow-burn roles in dramas that never really caught on. Yet it was this project, a small, low-budget BL drama, that unexpectedly became one of the defining chapters of his career. In To My Star, Woo-hyeon plays Han Ji-woo, a reserved, careful chef who finds his orderly world turned upside down when a famous actor bursts into his life, literally and figuratively. What begins as an opposite attraction develops into something much deeper, a meditation on shame, vulnerability, and the radical act of allowing yourself to be loved for who you are. Unlike many BL characters, Ji-woo isn't written to be romanticized. He's flawed, cautious, silently afraid of wanting something he believes he can't have. And Sun Woo-hyun doesn't try to make Ji-woo more alluring than he is. He plays the role authentically, and that authenticity is explosive. Every awkward silence, every half-thought, every moment of hesitation, it's not just acting. It's real. And queer audiences around the world have seen themselves in that truth. Because Ji-woo isn't a fantasy, he's real. He represents something that so many LGBTQ+ people are all too familiar with. The instinct to hide, to protect, to distance themselves before the world gets too close. And Sun Woo-hyun, with subtlety and grace, gives those moments room to breathe. He doesn't act queerness, he listens to it. And in doing so, he helped normalize it, not with his words, but with his presence. What makes his performance so powerful isn't his intense passion or his dramatic style. It's his choice to slow down, to linger in the silence, to let love unfold awkwardly, cautiously, and beautifully. In a genre that often prizes chemistry as a spectacle, Woo-hyeon and co-star Kang-min give us chemistry as a communion. Their silences speak louder than their kisses. And perhaps most powerful of all is the ending, not just of the film, but of Ji-woo's emotional arc. He doesn't shout his love from the rooftops, he stays. And in a world where LGBTQ+ stories often end in loneliness or compromise, the decision to stay, to choose love without regret, is quietly groundbreaking. Through To My Star, Sun Woo-hyun doesn't just offer representation, he offers permission to let viewers feel, to hope, to recognize themselves in something gentle and whole. His work reminds us that healing doesn't always come from grand gestures. Sometimes it comes from cooking dinner for someone you love and letting them stay for breakfast. And perhaps that's the legacy of performances like his. They don't just reflect queer stories, they reimagine what queer happiness looks like. Lee Sang isn't the type of actor who thrives on attention. He doesn't burst onto the screen. He comes in softly. And in Wish You, Your Melody from My Heart, 2020, he doesn't just play a character. He becomes a calm amid the chaos, a soft landing spot for a love story that's been waiting a long time to be free. As Kang In-soo's co-star, Lee plays keyboardist and street musician Kang In-soo, a young man trying to balance ambition with honesty. But behind the gentle strumming and hopeful songs lies something much closer to home. A man learning, slowly and bravely, that it's okay to love someone who might not be the love he was taught to expect. Lee Sang brings a warmth to the screen that is rare in Korean cinema, especially in BL. His performance doesn't rely on intensity or physical allure. It's rooted in gentleness, in the quiet understanding between characters. The glances he offers aren't driven by desire, but by genuine curiosity, which gradually deepens into care. He doesn't just portray same-sex love, he reveals why it matters. Because everyone deserves to feel safe when they're truly seen. What makes Lee's performance feel different, almost healing, is the space it allows for emotions to come out naturally. There's no rush to tag along. There's no moment that screams, "Look at us, we're breaking down barriers." Instead, there's a sense of peace. An acknowledgement that love doesn't need a reason. It just needs to be true. There's a particular scene in Wish You that captures this beautifully, where his character, uncertain yet hopeful, simply reaches out. Not as a dramatic statement, not as a statement, just as someone who wants to connect. For queer audiences, especially those still searching for self-acceptance, that moment is everything. Because it says, it's okay not to have all the answers. It's okay to move at your own pace. And it's okay to reach out to someone without shame. Off-screen, Lee Sang doesn't flaunt his role. He doesn't chase controversy or grab headlines. He lets the work speak for itself. And maybe that's why it resonates. Because there's something incredibly powerful about an actor who sees same-sex relationships not as career risks or genre challenges, but as stories worth telling, with full emotion. In an era where the portrayal of homosexuality in Korean media is still catching up to reality, Lee Sang offers something rare, a character who doesn't suffer for being gay. He simply exists. He loves. He grows. And in his quietness, he reminds us that gay joy doesn't always have to be fought for. Sometimes it just needs to be seen. And as we move into the final story of this journey, we meet an actor whose warmth, sincerity, and emotional depth have helped bring to life one of Korea's most beloved BL couples, Kang-min. In a genre often defined by intensity, conflict, or the rush of forbidden desire, Kang-min brings something much rarer and much more tender to the screen: stillness. As Kang So-jun's quiet but determined lover in To My Star 2020-2022, he doesn't play a loud lover, a comic relief, or a tragic gay archetype. He plays a man learning to love and be loved, and in doing so, he helps redefine gay masculinity in Korean narrative. As Han Ji-woo, a chef who prefers silence to showiness, structure to spontaneity, Kang-min doesn't act gay for the sake of attention. He plays it as a lived experience, layered, restrained, and heartbreakingly real. In a role that's easily overshadowed by co-star Son Woo-hyeon's more expressive energy, Kang-min turns subtlety into his superpower. His hesitations speak louder than his statements. His gaze carries weight. His silence isn't an absence. It's a presence, gently and deliberately maintained. What makes his performance unforgettable is how deeply sympathetic it is to viewers who have seen too many versions of same-sex love end in heartbreak or invisibility. Ji-woo isn't punished for his love. He isn't erased. He simply struggles, then surrenders, in search of joy. In a world that often requires LGBTQ+ people to fight for every ounce of affection, To My Star offers something liberating, a story where love isn't just possible, it's peaceful. Off-screen, Kang-min approaches the project with quiet integrity. He doesn't try to define or explain the character's sexuality, nor does he use the role as a branding move. He lets the story exist on its own, and in doing so, he respects the real lives and relationships the film reflects. That respect is evident, especially in the second part, when the characters face deeper challenges. Kang-min's acting matures a lot along with Ji-woo. He shows us the evolution of a man who is not coming out, but going inside himself. And perhaps that's what makes his contribution so lasting. Ji-woo is not a dream. He's the man you've seen in real life, the friend who hesitates before speaking, the partner who doesn't know how to express his feelings, the one who builds emotional walls not to keep others out, but to protect what's left of himself. And then, he opens up to someone. Kang-min has shown us that same-sex love doesn't always come quickly. Sometimes it comes through the kitchen door, pulls up a chair, and simply says, "I'm here, if you want me." Now that you've met each of these incredible actors and gotten a taste of the worlds they helped create, we'd love to know, which story touched your heart the most? Which performance stayed with you long after the credits rolled? Leave your favorite story in the comments. Let's celebrate the beauty of same-sex love together. Love stories like these don't just entertain us, they change us. They remind us that visibility matters, that softness can be brave, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is love without apology. If this video moved you, share it, subscribe, hit the bell, and stay close, because in our next story, we uncover the most unexpected romance in Korean BL history. You won't want to miss it. Until then, keep watching, keep feeling, keep loving out loud. You won't believe this, but one of Asia's biggest LGBTQ+ icons never actually came out. Mew Suppasit didn't post any statements. He didn't give any public interviews. He didn't even whisper a name. No rainbow banners, no loud declarations, just honest, raw love. So what do you think? Is being true to who you are more important than saying it? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you on this story. Close your eyes for a moment and picture this scene. A young boy in Nakhon Pathom, Thailand. He's looking up at the sky where planes cut through the clouds like strokes on a blank canvas. His name is Mew Suppasit. At 10, he doesn't dream of fame or fashion or movie sets. He dreams of the cockpit, of gravity-defying missions, of flying. He wants to be a pilot, not for the glory, but for the freedom, for the thrill of breaking free from what the world expects of him. But life, as usual, has other plans. You see, Mew is no dreamer. He's an all-round good student, a son of tradition, raised in a culture that values family honor and quiet obedience. His father, a disciplined man. His mother, a warm, hopeful woman. They didn't raise him to show off. They raised him to succeed. And for a while, it seemed like he would. Mew did well in school, even pursuing a degree in industrial engineering. But the sky, the only place he truly yearned for? It remained out of reach. A small problem in his vision, almost unnoticed by anyone, was enough to extinguish his dream of becoming a pilot forever. What would you do if the only dream that made you feel alive suddenly disappeared? Would you change, or would you give up? Mew chose a different path, and it was not only brave, but also quietly transformative. He kept moving forward, with will and heart. And then, with quiet determination, he stepped into something much more daring than the stage itself. The public eye. Not just as an actor, not just as a singer, but as a character who would gently begin to reshape the way masculinity was portrayed on screen. Someone who was unafraid to show emotion, to make room for tenderness, and to prove that love, true love, even between two men, still had its rightful place in the story. But back then, all he knew was that he wanted to tell stories. So he began. Small roles, unpaid performances, endless auditions. The same guy who had studied aircraft mechanics now learned facial expressions, vocal control, and emotional range. He built his second dream from scratch, not with wings, but with grit. And here's something to think about. Can someone like Mew, an ambitious young man from a conservative family, truly be himself in an industry that often rewards silence over honesty? Can he succeed without sacrificing his identity? We ask these questions not just about Mew, but about every gay person living in a world that demands concealment over applause. What happens when your truth and your talent come together? Over the years, Mew has not only attracted fans, he's also been noticed for something deeper. His acting has a warmth and tenderness rarely seen in Thai leading men. His characters don't just pursue love, they feel deeply, openly, and emotionally. And slowly, audiences began to wonder, was Mew bringing something of himself to these roles? Something more personal? Something unspoken but deeply present? But back then he didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Because sometimes presence speaks louder than words, and in every role he played, whether it was a boyfriend, a bodyguard, or a heartbroken poet, he brought a sincerity that made people lean in and wonder, is he telling us more than a story? And maybe he was. Because sometimes being true to yourself doesn't need a title or a symbol. It lives in the quiet moments, the touch of a hand across a landscape, the way a gaze lingers a little longer, the quiet warmth that words can convey more than anything else. It's in how you embrace love, not as something to hide, not as something to explain, but simply as something real, something sincere, something that doesn't need permission to exist. But when the sky closes in, he doesn't give up on his dream, he simply changes its shape. If the world won't let him fly with engines and heights, he'll learn to soar in other ways, not through the clouds, but through fear, through expectations. Mew begins to craft his own wings, not from steel or glass, but from empathy, endurance, and raw emotion. He doesn't fly in a cockpit, he flies in a role, in stories, in the silence that speaks louder than words. And it's through action, not escape, that he finds sublimity. A freedom that doesn't defy gravity, but defies limits. Are you ready to see how art becomes an act of silent defiance? Each performance whispering a deeper truth? Then join me in the next, where the stage is not just about performance, it is about courage. Fame is incredibly powerful. It elevates and challenges every aspect of who you are. When Tharn Type the series first aired, it was more than just a drama. It was a turning point. A love story between two men, told honestly, deeply, and emotionally. And at the center of it all was Mew Suppasit, charming, deep, emotional, and unafraid to show his truth. Mew portrays Tharn authentically, and certainly doesn't play around with fantasy. It's compelling, engaging, layered, and deeply human. And that authenticity touches the heart. It makes you stop and wonder, who is he really? Because in BL, there's often an unwritten rule. Just enough romance to spark the imagination, but never enough to blur the line with reality. Mew quietly breaks that rule. He doesn't just kiss Golf Kanawoot, he shares his presence. He looks with his eyes, conveys emotion through his voice, and infuses every scene with a weight so real it's hard to ignore. And the audience feels it. Every word left unsaid, every breath held for longer. Millions watched and rewatched, and in those scenes, they found something personal, something powerful enough to rewrite their own stories. For countless queer fans, especially across Asia, Tharn Type is more than a movie. It's a lifeline, a quiet affirmation that they are seen, understood, and no longer alone. But like all things that challenge the norm, each bold move comes with the whispers, the debates. As Mew rose across Asia, so did his fame. Magazine covers, interviews, commercials, fan events, he was everywhere. But behind the admiration was something deeper: speculation, judgment, expectation. People didn't just want to praise him, they wanted to label him. Was he gay? Bisexual? Just playing a role? Why didn't he say so? The harsh truth is, society doesn't often seek understanding. It demands answers. And when someone chooses silence over definition, the world doesn't wait. It pushes, relentlessly. But Mew doesn't rush to explain. He doesn't publish a statement. He doesn't hold a press conference. He doesn't call himself an activist or an icon. Instead, he chooses something much more powerful. He stays true to himself. He keeps doing, he keeps creating, he keeps showing up, whole and quiet, without reshaping his truth to fit the world's expectations. He lives openly, not by declaration, but by presence. And sometimes, that quiet consistency is more compelling than any headline. Which do you think takes more courage? To speak up, or to be so real that it's unnecessary? In a world that thrives on carefully crafted performances and images, Mew offers something rare, a quieter image. An image that comes not from acting, but from being. Not from hype, but from truth. By simply showing up bravely, he reminds us that authenticity doesn't need to be shouted, it just needs to be lived. On the outside, Mew smiled, he waved, he performed, he thrived. But on the inside, there must have been noise. Not the kind fans and critics talk about, the kind of noise that builds when your truth is repeatedly exposed by people who don't know your heart. Have you ever felt that way? Like you're expected to be open, but not too open. Seen, but not fully seen. Accepted, conditionally. That's the tension Mew lives in. The tension between being loved and questioned, between being celebrated and being scrutinized. People aren't just observing his work, they're observing him, studying his gestures, analyzing his choices, waiting for a word, a label, anything. Ask yourself honestly, do you ever feel obligated to explain yourself just to be taken seriously? Like the world won't fully welcome you until you provide a definition? Because the truth is, labels hold power. They can connect people, they can create connections, open doors, and foster understanding. But they can also set boundaries, drawing unnecessary boundaries. For Mew, choosing not to label himself isn't about hiding, it's about choosing. It's about keeping something personal. It's about living on his own terms, without needing approval, without needing to fit into anyone else's definition of who he should be. Because not every story needs a headline, not every truth needs to be shared with the world. Mew continues to lead with quiet sincerity and unwavering grace. In each role, he tells stories that leave room for queer love, complicated love, love that defies expectations. He brings tenderness to places where it's rarely allowed. He softens the edges of masculinity, reminding us that strength isn't always loud and softness isn't weakness. And most of all, he shows us that authenticity isn't defined by a label. It's defined by how you live, love, and show up every day. So maybe the real question isn't, why hasn't Mew come out yet? Maybe the better question is, why do we still expect people to sacrifice their privacy just to make us feel comfortable? And if that truth resonates with you, if you've ever felt torn between being seen and feeling safe, then maybe what Mew is doing is more than just brave. Maybe it's exactly what this moment calls for. Torn between two extremes, fan loyalty and the weight of public expectation, Mew has chosen silence. But silence has never been his shield, it has been his stance. Because when words fail or are unwelcome, he lets his art speak. And what follows is not just a performance, but a voice that refuses to whisper. What do you do when the world demands a label, but your heart speaks another language? For Mew Suppasit, the answer lies not in press conferences or tabloid headlines. It's not proclaimed in flowery words, it's expressed in the way he creates. Through music that touches the heart, through stories that are more powerful than any definition. In a society that often expects clarity and order, Mew offers something much bolder. A quiet courage, unfettered by convention. Emotions that flow freely, without permission. Love, real, clear, and deep. From the start, Mew's music was more than just sound. It was a deep, emotional language, layered with meaning that only those who truly needed it could fully understand. When he founded his own label, it was not just a strategic move, it was a clear and confident stance. A message that said, I don't need anyone's approval to tell my story. With that choice, he began to shape something rare in Southeast Asia. A creative space based on emotional honesty. No compromise, no masks, just one man, one voice, and one purpose. Making art that feels deeply, speaks the truth, and dares to be vulnerable. His debut album 365 is a gentle rebellion. Steeped in ambiguity and longing, it's filled with songs that dare to forgo pronouns. Not because he's hiding, but because he wants people to see themselves in the story. Each melody is a mirror, each lyric a door. And for fans around the world, especially those in the LGBTQ+ community, it's become more than an album. It's become a safe place, a companion, a gentle reminder that love, no matter what form it takes, deserves the freedom to exist, to grow, and simply to be. Then came the first album, a global breakthrough, breaking boundaries and climbing Billboard and iTunes charts around the world. But beyond the numbers, the real purpose matters. Mew makes music with depth, sophistication, and raw emotional honesty. He doesn't use pop music to entertain. He uses it to affirm identity, ask questions, and illuminate the soul. He doesn't loudly lay it all out. He reveals it, layer by layer, verse by verse, refrain by refrain. And with each release, his sound becomes more intimate, more resonant, and undeniably braver. And then, turn off the alarm. A music video unlike anything Mew had ever made before. No noise, no drama, just quiet vulnerability. Two men sharing space, affection, tension, and tenderness, all without labels. Poetic imagery, unmistakable chemistry. And for those who pay attention, the message is clear. This is love. It's the kind of image that doesn't need to be interpreted, it invites you to feel. And isn't that the purest form of storytelling? So here's a question to ponder. When an artist puts same-sex love into his work, no label, no press release, no explanation, does that mean more than any official statement? He doesn't have to wave a flag to say he belongs. His presence, quiet, confident, steadfast, is that flag. And while some are waiting for a coming out, others recognize that it's already happened. Not in words, but in love. Every choice, from camera angles to costumes to plot, is carefully considered to reflect a truth that can no longer be hidden. And yet, he never confirms, never denies, never explains. Why? Because with Mew, perhaps the goal was never to define himself. It was to blur the lines between those who are loved on screen and those who are not. Perhaps that's what makes his work so moving. Real, unlabeled, unfeared. Let's be real. How many artists today are brave enough to do what Mew did? Living in the shadows, not out of fear, but as a choice, as a form of freedom. For so many LGBTQ+ youth across Asia, where full self-expression can still come with consequences, Mew's gentleness is a strength, a way to exist gracefully, a kind of gentle revolution wrapped in melody, because sometimes the most powerful truths aren't there. They're sung in lyrics, felt through loving eyes, or delivered in the silence between the notes of a love song. And if you've ever wondered, is he trying to say something? A better question might be, what are we really listening to? Because sometimes the music is the message. Sometimes just witnessing love, tender, messy, unspoken, is more powerful than any confession. And with Mew, the most touching moments don't come from who he declares he loves, but from how he shows it, quietly, beautifully, without explanation. But even then, the story goes deeper. Because love, true love, isn't expressed through art alone. It's expressed through presence, through quiet persistence, through choosing the same person over and over again. And as the whispers grow louder, as candid photos emerge, as furtive glances turn to public warmth, something begins to change. And that brings us to what comes. Because while Mew's music has always been meaningful, it has never been intended to tell the whole story. Not alone. Sometimes the most powerful don't begin with a lyric. They're in the lives that unfold beyond the stage. July 20th, 24. A new episode of My Ambulove airs on Thai television. Fans expect the usual suspects. A little light drama, a few laughs, maybe a charming cameo. But instead, what they see is the unexpected. A love story unfolding quietly, beautifully, in real time. And not just any love story. This one doesn't rely on twists or dramatic revelations. There are no grand declarations, no trending hashtags, just a look, a gentle touch, a quiet intimacy. The moment shared between Mew Suppasit and Tool Pukhorn doesn't need to be said. It just is. And somehow, in its silence, it says it all. They don't say we're dating, but they don't need to. Because when Tool gently took Mew's hand, when Mew looked at him with a soft, knowing smile, like "you chose me," over and over again, it resonated more than any public declaration. And for anyone who had ever waited for an authentic, intimate, unscripted representation, this was it. In that quiet, unscripted moment, something truly groundbreaking happened. Not because of the kiss, not because of the rainbow pins or the bold declarations, but because they were there, together, without hesitation, without pretense. Just two men, side by side, exchanging looks of love without permission, without regret. A love that needed no explanation to be understood. Isn't that what so many of us have been waiting for? Not a grand declaration, not a label of perfection, but the freedom to be ourselves, authentically, fearlessly, with the person we love. Mew and Tool gave us that. And in doing so, they gave voice to countless people who never had the chance to say, "This is who I love." Especially in Asia, where societal expectations often overwhelm personal truth, their quiet authenticity was shocking. Not because they were making a statement, but because they didn't have to. What happens when someone quietly steps out of line, not loudly, not ostentatiously, but with calm certainty? When they let their silence speak, when words may not be enough. Perhaps that, more than anything else, is the truest form of courage. For the LGBTQ+ community, their appearance together isn't just a moment of gossip or fan joy, it's affirmation, validation, hope. It's to those who have been told their love isn't normal, isn't natural, isn't real. But here were two of Thailand's most beloved stars, unabashed, simply living. The impact was immediate. Social media exploded, headlines raced to define the status of their relationship. But the fans? They didn't need confirmation. They already knew. Because true love doesn't need a caption. You feel it, you recognize it, and when it's real, it stays, it touches you, even if it's just in the smallest, quietest way. And maybe that's exactly the point. Mew and Tool never made a traditional announcement, but what they brought was something deeper. A quiet clarity. They showed us that love doesn't need to be defined to be felt. That a look, a gesture, a moment of laughter can say it all. When they choose to keep some things just theirs, they remind us that intimacy can be powerful. That what's real doesn't always need to be explained. And if you're watching this and wondering, but why does it matter? Think of a small town boy surfing YouTube, suddenly seeing someone who is like her. Falling in love openly, quietly, without any hesitation. A young boy in a conservative family, not needing subtitles to recognize the gaze of true love. Think of every closed heart watching and sighing, even just a little, thinking, maybe I don't need to explain. This isn't just entertainment. It's a kind of quiet freedom, wrapped in warmth and tenderness. And it gently reminds us of something we often forget. Courage doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's simply two people standing close enough to be seen and choosing to stay. Sometimes it's choosing gentleness in a world that demands definition. And it's the quiet understanding that your truth doesn't need to be spoken. So what do you think? Do we always need the "I'm out" to know someone is living their true self? Or is it enough to just feel it? To see it in how they show it, in how they love? Because love, in its purest form, isn't showy. It just is. And that day, Mew and Tol weren't showy. They were living their truth. And while the internet buzzes with theories, fans debate, and the media searches for definitions, something deeper is happening. A quiet shift, a turning point, a message delivered not through a headline or a tweet, but through a look, a moment, and an unscripted sincerity. And that message? It was simple. You don't owe the world an explanation for being true. So if that moment marked a turning point, then what followed was not just a continuation. It was a quiet storm that rippled throughout. The moment may have been gentle, but its aftershocks were powerful. Because when love is revealed, even in whispers, the world cannot help but listen. And now the question is yours. Are you ready to see what love becomes when it no longer lurks in the shadows, but rises fully into the light? October 24th, 2024. The atmosphere inside the auditorium was electric, the fans cheering, the lights flashing, the music still playing. No one in the crowd knew that history was about to be revealed. Not through a speech, not through a performance, but through a question. A question simple in form, but with enormous implications. As the lights dimmed, Mew Suppasit stepped forward. His voice, calm and steady, cut through the noise. And then he spoke, "Will you marry me?" No metaphors, no hesitation, just clarity, just courage. Just one man in love with another man, asking the question that millions dream of but few in his position dare to ask, especially not on stage in Thailand, in front of hundreds of people and thousands more watching online. And that is what made history. This wasn't fiction. This wasn't a twist in a BL drama. This was real life. This was love, revealed in the blink of an eye. Tol didn't say anything right away. He didn't need to. His eyes were filled with something gentle, unabashed, and unmistakably human. And when he nodded, just once softly, the whole room exploded. Fans cheered, people hugged. Some whispered yes, along with him, as if this moment somehow belonged to all of us. And maybe it did. Because this wasn't just a request. It was a statement of intent. A line had been crossed. A limit had been broken. Mew and Tol didn't wait for legal clearance or a face-to-face interview to explain what had just happened. They didn't shy away from careful language or stories of just friends. Instead, they chose to be honest, not for the sake of the headlines, but for themselves. And in doing so, they gave the audience something much more meaningful than a performance. They gave the audience unvarnished and undeniably real. Can we stop and really feel it? How many celebrities, especially in Asia, where the entertainment world is still heavily entrenched in tradition, have dared to do what Mew just did? Not just live authentically, but love openly. Not through interviews or suggestive social media posts, but in the most honest and vulnerable way imaginable. By proposing, by putting love into action, in front of the world, with nothing but sincerity and heart. And the timing? It said it all. There was no scandal to cover up, no rumor demanding a response, no public pressure to act. That was what made it so powerful. It wasn't a reaction, it was a choice. Quiet, on purpose, his own. Mew chose that moment not because he had to, but because he wanted to. And in doing so, he sent a message that resonated far beyond the screen. That love, when it's genuine, deserves to exist openly. It deserves to be seen, cherished, remembered. Not as a declaration, but as a moment of truth, lived fully and fearlessly. So when we say this moment changed Thai showbiz, it's not just a headline, it's a shift in what's possible. That same-sex love should be kept private, kept secret, until it's safer, easier, or until the moment has passed. But Mew and Tol rewrote that script. They didn't just come out, They did it with joy, grace, and on their own terms. They turned what could have been a risk into a celebration. And in doing so, they gave others permission to dream of doing the same. Because for so many viewers, this wasn't just a story about two actors falling in love. It was of their own quiet desires, quiet fears, moments of repression. And suddenly, everything changed. Suddenly, it felt a little easier to imagine themselves stepping into their own light, not with fanfare or flashy gestures, but with the person they loved standing beside them. And that in itself was a kind of glimmer of hope. And maybe that's what makes the difference. It's not a drama for attention, it's something much more subtle and yet infinitely more powerful. A quiet, private moment that resonates far beyond itself, touching timelines, headlines, and hearts all at once. We often talk about the importance of representation, but what happens when it steps off the screen and becomes real? When someone you admire is no longer performing, no longer hiding, but simply living, open and honest, no labels, just love, fully alive. Isn't that the kind of representation that stays with us the longest? The kind that changes not just what we see, but what we believe is possible? In that moment, Mew and Tool didn't need applause, but they got it. Not for the fame, not for the performance, but for the truth that lay within. Because love, when expressed without fear, becomes a mirror. It reflects something sacred back to those who witness it. If this were your story, would you have the courage to do the same? Would you stand before the world and say, "This is the one I love," without regret? Because in those 5 minutes on stage, something bigger than a proposal happened. A boundary was broken. A precedent was set. Mew and Tool didn't wait for the law to recognize them. They recognized each other. And that, more than any headline, is what history will remember. But beyond the cheers, the flashing cameras, the trending hashtags of the past few days, what matters most is not the spotlight. It's the way hearts move quietly. The way a gentle courage is passed from one person to another. A reminder that when love is lived openly and honestly, it doesn't need to be loud to change lives. So the real question now is, are you ready to see what happens next? Because their story is still unfolding, and the best may be yet to come. He never did a high-profile interview to say, "Yes, I'm gay." He never came out on a talk show with dramatic fanfare or a viral moment. He didn't update his bio or post a carefully crafted caption. And yet, everyone watching understood. Because sometimes the most powerful truths go unspoken. Sometimes you don't need a label to be honest. You just need to live your truth, quietly, honestly, and if you're brave enough, with love. And that's exactly what Mew Suppasit chose to do. As the photos of Mew and Tool began to appear, the gentle intertwining of hands, the quiet smiles exchanged, and finally, the unforgettable moment when Mew proposed in front of the world, there was no denial, no backing down, no careful words explaining that it was just for fun or part of the show. Instead, Mew remained silent, not out of fear, but because he trusted that the moment would speak for itself. And it did, softly, boldly, and beautifully. Isn't that a rare thing in today's celebrity world? A love story without drama, without embellishment, a message delivered without a word. In an age where fame is often measured by likes and headlines, Mew offered something different, something quieter, more sincere. His story didn't need to be out to be heard. It carried a gentle, heart-touching sincerity. And across Thailand, Vietnam, the Philippines, Korea, and beyond, people felt it. Not as a trend, not as a performance, but as something deep, human. Something that reminded them that love like this could actually exist. Ask yourself, how many times have we waited for permission to be ourselves? But Mew's story isn't about waiting. It's about taking action. It's about choosing love, even when the world hasn't quite caught up yet. Even when you're not sure how your fans, your industry, your country will react. He didn't wait for approval. He acted. Quietly, boldly. And in doing so, he gave a whole new generation permission to do the same. You see, when someone like Mew, idolatrated, educated, admired, walks in love without explanation, he challenges every stereotype of masculinity we've been given. He rewrites what it means to be strong, to succeed, to be accepted. He creates space for softness where silence once was required. And isn't that the kind of ally the LGBTQ+ community needs? Not just someone who waves a rainbow during Pride Month, but someone who lives in color all year round? Don't overlook what it means for an Asian male celebrity to take this path. In industries where image is carefully managed, where romantic rumors can cost you endorsements, where being overly honest can end a career, Mew has stepped straight into the spotlight. With his truth by his side, with Tool by his side. And in choosing to live his truth so openly, he not only asserted his own story, but also quietly opened up space for others to enter into theirs. To be clear, Mew never set out to be a spokesperson. He never wanted to be called a gay icon. He simply chose to love openly, authentically, and without the constraints of anyone's expectations. It's not activism in the traditional sense. It's something quieter, more private. It's love lived out in truth. And for so many in our community, that quiet presence is not only powerful, it's healing. So now I want to ask you, what if we all stopped waiting for the perfect words and started being who we are like Mew? What if you didn't have to explain yourself? What if just being present, kind, and honest was enough? The truth is, Mew Suppasit may never have said those exact words. He may never have stepped onto the stage to make a grand statement, but he showed up, quietly, steadily, and without pretense. Every time he stood beside Tool, not as a character, not as a scene, but as himself, he was choosing truth. He was choosing love. And in doing so, he was choosing all of us. And perhaps that is the most powerful statement of all. Do you dare to live with that quiet courage? To love? Not for appearances, not for praise, but simply and sincerely for yourself? If you do, you will not be alone. You will walk the path that has been blazed by someone who has gone before you, with sincerity, grace, and a love so real that it does not need the spotlight to be seen. His name is Mew Suppasit. Mew Suppasit doesn't need a title to make history. He just needs love and courage to live his life to the fullest. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touches your heart, inspires you, or makes you think, don't forget to subscribe, support, and check out more meaningful stories right here on our channel. We read every comment. Yes, even the most candid comments from the most critical viewers. So feel free to share your thoughts below. We're here to listen, reflect, and grow together. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. It's all just acting. If that's what you think Billkin and PP Crit are doing, just fan service, then what you're about to see might completely change your mind. These aren't rumors. These are real-life moments, captured off-script, that have fans all over the world convinced that their relationship is real. Stick with us until the end, because we're going to show you a moment that even their own production team can't explain. A love story that seemed destined to be portrayed only on the big screen has finally touched the hearts of millions. Those were the exact words that many fans whispered after watching the first episode of I Told Sunset About You. At first, no one could have predicted the cultural shockwave that was about to erupt. The two young men, Billkin and PP Crit played their roles with confidence, simply doing their duty as actors. But something happened. The camera captured more than just lines and scenes. It captured a genuine, lived-in connection. Many fans said it was almost too real. Crowds started cheering whenever the two appeared together at events. Fancams exploded on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. But before we dive into the public reaction and the iconic moments that fans now know by heart, let's stop and ask ourselves, who were Billkin and PP Crit before they met? Billkin was known as a private, soft-spoken individual, polite, calm, careful to keep his personal life out of the spotlight. PP Crit, on the other hand, was known for his fun, spontaneous, and emotional nature, lighting up any room he entered. Two completely different energies. The two weren't even destined to become BL sensations at first. From the very first script reading, something clicked, and the cast members later admitted in interviews that they sensed it immediately. The chemistry was undeniable. Their gazes lingered a little longer than their lines. The director didn't even have to say cut, because the scene flowed so naturally. In behind-the-scenes footage, you can see the teasing, the light touches on the arm, the quiet, unexpected intimacy between two actors who had supposedly just met. Even in early interviews, they couldn't stop glancing at each other, and it didn't go unnoticed. As filming progressed, that energy grew stronger. Their co-stars began mentioning in press interviews that Billkin and PP weren't acting anymore. Some viewers even believed that there were moments when they didn't feel like they were acting anymore. One crew member even admitted, "Sometimes we forgot we were filming. It felt like we were witnessing something real happening in front of us." Fans started speculating. Some of them thought these moments were suggestive evidence. At a fan meeting in late 2020, they were caught holding hands backstage when they thought no one was filming. During a live stream, Billkin was asked to describe his ideal type. Instead of giving a generic answer, he paused, looked at PP Crit, and said with a shy smile, "Someone like him." Remember how the conversation exploded when he said that? Because it did. Millions of comments flooded in within seconds. The more they tried to act calm, the more it became clear. These weren't scripted gestures. These weren't staged fan service moments. These seemed like genuine reactions to many people watching, real comfort, real affection. And that's when the question started to ring louder and louder in the BL community. Is this just a clever marketing strategy? Or are we actually witnessing a real-life love story unfolding before our eyes? Even major Thai news agencies began reporting on their interactions. Reporters kept asking if there was something more between them. Their answers were always the same. A slight smile, a chuckle, followed by a short, "We're just very close." But their tone suggested something deeper, something they probably weren't ready to admit to the public. And the audience sensed it. They sensed it in the way Billkin unconsciously held PP's hand during live performances without even realizing it. The way PP Crit's voice softened whenever he mentioned Billkin's name. They feel it in the comfort, in the silence, in the eye contact without any dialogue. At this point, what do you believe? Can two people act to create such a genuine relationship? Or is this the kind of bond that cannot be faked, no matter how talented the actors are? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. What makes this story so rare is not just the romance itself, but the way it unfolds completely naturally, without any drama or forced exaggeration. It's how two completely different people come together and inadvertently prove that sometimes truth is stronger than fiction. And trust me, this is just the beginning. In the next of this story, we'll dive into the moment everything changed. The turning point when audiences around the world suddenly stopped and thought, wait, this isn't just acting anymore. This is real. Are you ready? Let's explore. This isn't just a love story. What you're about to hear may be the first time a fictional romance has quietly entered real life, and no one noticed until it happened. Long before the world started pairing Billkin and PP Crit, before hashtags flooded social media and interviews garnered millions of views, it all started in a small, silent audition room. No screaming fans, no couple names, just two young actors showing up for auditions, for a new project simply titled, "I Told Sunset About You." At the time, Billkin admits he didn't expect anything special. "Honestly, I thought it was like any other project. Just another opportunity to improve my acting," he shared in an interview with the Standard Pop. PP Crit went in with the same mindset. "I wanted to focus and show what I could do. I didn't even expect that we would work together." It's funny how fate begins in the most ordinary places, isn't it? The moment they sat down to read the script for the first time, something subtle happened. No one saw it coming. At first, neither of them realized it, but then they both felt the same thing. A strange, quiet connection. PP said, "I was surprised by how natural it was. Even though we had just met, it didn't feel like we were acting." Billkin later confirmed the same thing. Talking to him was so easy, it felt like we understood each other somehow. From there, each small interaction becomes part of a larger story. In the music video, which is unscripted or planned, Billkin starts playing piano chords spontaneously. PP moves closer, not because the director asked, but because it feels natural. You can clearly see the two of them smiling in a way that is completely different from a typical interview. Pause the clip right there and look into Billkin's eyes. That's not acting. That's genuine tenderness. And fans got it right away. Just hours after the clip was posted, Twitter exploded with comments like, "That moment wasn't scripted. They were really comfortable together. Remember how you felt when you first watched that clip? It felt like something was about to happen." But that was just the first sign. In the behind-the-scenes video of episode 1, there's a moment where PP fiddles with the microphone. Before anyone on set can react, Billkin walks over and adjusts the microphone for him without saying a word, his hand resting lightly on PP's shoulder. The scene only lasts a few seconds, but the body language, it's completely unedited. PP doesn't leave. He doesn't even look surprised. That feeling of comfort doesn't appear on day one unless there's something deeper going on. And even the staff started to notice. A crew member later revealed in a short interview, sometimes during breaks, they'd still hang out together and talk. They didn't look like colleagues at all. It looks more like two people finding each other. So let me ask you, do you think such chemistry can be created at will? Or does it just happen when two souls naturally gravitate towards each other? As filming continued, Billkin began staying late after rehearsals. At first, the official reason was to rehearse romantic scenes, but according to PP, they often just talked about life, music, and childhood memories in Bangkok. According to PP, "I didn't expect him to be so open. The more we talked, the more I realized he was someone I really trusted." Isn't that how real love stories begin? Slowly, quietly, almost unnoticed? And that's exactly what made their relationship so compelling. There was no fan service in that early stage, no forced hugs in front of the camera. Everything happened completely naturally. That's why fans call it accidental romance. The atmosphere becomes like an American summer coming-of-age movie. Warm sunsets, quiet post-rehearsal conversations, two people slowly discovering a closeness they didn't even know they were looking for. When episode 1 aired, viewers saw more than just characters. They witnessed two real people writing their own stories behind the scenes. And the biggest question is, did it all start right there, in the casting room? Or was there something deeper that drew them together long before they realized it? Stay with me, we'll dive into key behind-the-scenes moments and fan-recorded clips that made even the production team admit, this isn't acting anymore. So what do you think? Is it fate or just coincidence? What if this isn't acting anymore? What if Billkin and PP Crit have been living a real love story right before our eyes this whole time? At first, it all looked like a classic BL drama marketing strategy. Two talented young actors, a beautifully written story, professional chemistry. But over time, something subtle and incredibly powerful began to change. They didn't just show up on set, they started arriving together, leaving together, spending time off together, and not because they had to, but because they wanted to. It all started with a simple moment. In late 2021, after an event in Chiang Mai, fans waved goodbye, cameras still rolling. PP suddenly reached out and fixed Billkin's hair without saying a word. Billkin instinctively smiled and leaned closer. They seemed to forget about the audience for a few seconds, as if the world had disappeared around them. That small gesture sparked a wave of online discussion. Was it scripted or a pre-planned fan service segment? No, it wasn't even on the list. A fan who attended the event in person later shared on Twitter, "You can see PP looking at Billkin the whole time, like he wanted to make sure he was okay. That's not acting, that's pure worry." A few days later, another unexpected situation occurred. During a backstage rehearsal, PP injured his hand. Billkin immediately stopped everything and ran over, completely ignoring the crew's instructions to continue filming. He stayed by PP's side throughout the break, whispering and holding his wrist with both hands. That clip was never supposed to be released, but a crew member quietly confirmed it to The Standard in a 2022 interview. It wasn't on camera. Billkin looked really nervous. He didn't even realize we were filming. Would most actors break filming protocol just because of a little accident during rehearsal, unless it meant something? From that point on, the signs started to appear, quickly. Private outings. Fans spotted them at a small cafe in Thonglor with no crew around. Billkin was seen gently placing his hand on PP's lower back as he stepped out. No phone in sight, no manager nearby. Exclusive gift. On PP's birthday, Billkin gave him a custom-made bracelet engraved with both of their initials. In a later interview, PP quietly admitted, "That's my favorite gift. I never take it off." At the 2022 fan meeting during the acoustic segment, Billkin made eye contact with PP as he sang "Safe Zone." Tears began to well up in, and PP never looked away, not even for a second. The entire audience fell silent. No cheers, no fan chants. Just a shared awareness that something deeply genuine was happening on stage. A Thai journalist from Sihanouk later wrote, "It was the first time I've seen a boys' love stage completely silent. The audience wasn't cheering. They were simply witnessing two people in love." And it's not just fans or the press. Even their close friends are starting to notice. In an episode of the Nadado Bangkok podcast, a fellow actor calmly shared, "When the two of them are together, you can feel something different. It's not acting anymore. They understand each other in a way that's hard to explain." Now let's be clear. We're not talking about wild speculation or rumors. All of the moments you just heard were captured on video, live streams, and actual press interviews. No exaggeration. No fabrication. Is it still professional chemistry when Billkin unconsciously grabs PP's hand even when the cameras aren't rolling? Is it still fan service when PP looks at Billkin like he's actually proud of him at a completely unrelated awards ceremony? And most importantly, can the two of them pretend that well for so long without an awkward moment or slip-up? One longtime fan put it best, "They don't act like co-stars who end up becoming friends. They act like two friends who accidentally fall in love." And honestly, that's what many fans believe might have happened. Because from that moment on, after the quiet dinners, the off-screen chemistry, the subtle compliments from journalists, and the way people around them talked about their relationship, the line between acting and reality not only blurred, it disappeared. And that's when the story really started to get exciting. Next, we dive deeper into their private world. From the birthday surprise that sent the fandom into a frenzy, to the emotional midnight Instagram live where many believe Billkin almost confessed, to the behind-the-scenes clip that fans are convinced is their real confession. Are you ready? If you are, drop in the comments and let us know. Do you think Billkin and PP Crit's love story is real? Many fans still remember the exact moment the hashtag BKPP first went viral, not just in Thailand but around the world. Within hours, the hashtag was trending on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. as fans in Japan, South Korea, China, and even the United States all began asking the same simple question. Is this still acting, or are we witnessing true love happening right before our eyes? At first, it felt like any other boys' love plot. Touching, beautifully executed, but ultimately fictional. However, the chemistry between Billkin and PP Crit felt different. Each behind-the-scenes clip showed a level of intimacy that was completely unscripted. Every casual glance, every spontaneous laugh, and every light touch instantly went viral and garnered millions of views. And none of it was part of an official production plan. Remember that TikTok moment when Billkin gently brushed something off PP's face during an interview? And PP instinctively smiled, completely forgetting that the camera was still rolling? That 5-second clip alone racked up more than 3 million views in less than 24 hours, and was quickly reposted by fan accounts in Japan and Singapore with captions like, "This is not acting." Even major media outlets like Japan's WeTV, China's Sina, and Korea's All K-pop started reporting on the suspiciously natural interactions between the two stars, and none of them used the word rumor. They simply called them Billkin and PP Crit, the couple who changed boys' love history. At this point, a new wave began. Fans didn't just ship the couple because of the story. They believed that their genuine feelings were the reason the story was so powerful. And that belief became the driving force behind the entire Asian entertainment industry. In China, searches for Billkin PP Crit couple in real life made it to the top 10 trends on Weibo. In Korea, Dispatch even listed the couple on their list of most believable on-screen relationships that could be real. This had never happened before for a Thai BL couple. Have you seen the Japanese article in Cinema Today that boldly declared, Billkin and PP Crit have taken boys' love beyond the genre, making it an international phenomenon and maybe even a real-life love story? When a mainstream Japanese publication writes such things, it's no longer just a passing trend, it's a cultural impact. Let's take a moment together. Do you think all of this is just great acting? Or do you actually believe that something real has begun to blossom between them over time? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And the thing is, the influence doesn't stop at just one show. Before BKPP, boys' love was mostly watched by small communities. Then the entire Asian entertainment industry began to recognize it as a strong, mainstream genre. Streaming platforms like Netflix and Viu have officially promoted Thai boys' love content on their homepages. New boys' love series in Japan, Taiwan, and even Korea have openly cited Billkin and PP Crit as inspiration. They didn't just promote a successful drama, they made an entire genre feel real, heartfelt, and relatable. In fact, many young actors entering the boys' love industry today have said in interviews that BKPP made them believe that this type of storytelling could bring depth and sincerity. Instead of approaching it as a fan service genre, they began to embrace it as a space to portray human connection, identity, and love in a realistic way. Some production companies in Asia even adjusted their scripts and acting workshops after I Told Sunset About You, telling the cast, "Don't act like characters in a boys' love drama. Act like two real people in love." One of the most memorable moments came on March 18th when the hashtag BKPP exploded on social media, reaching 1.2 million tweets in just 8 hours. Have you ever seen another boys' love couple spark such a global response in such a short amount of time? That single hashtag wave included comments in Thai, English, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Spanish, and even Portuguese, a clear sign that this was more than just content. It became a shared emotional journey, one that crossed borders and found its way into the hearts of millions of ordinary people around the world. And since you're still here, watching this show, I want to ask you directly, Where are you watching from? Are you in Asia, Europe, North America, or somewhere else entirely? How did you feel when you first saw one of these raw, unedited BKPP moments? Did it surprise you? Did it make you smile? Or perhaps, did it make you believe in love again? Share your country and your feelings in the comments below. Let the world know how far this story has come. Because let's be honest, this isn't just about the two actors anymore. Their relationship sparked a movement, inspiring a new generation of actors to approach their roles with authenticity and passion. They helped transform boys' love from a fan-driven niche into a genre built on emotion, respect, and authentic storytelling. And now, we're coming to the moment everyone's been talking about, the moment fans believe the acting stops and the real feeling begins. We're going to look back at unedited footage that many say proves it. So don't go anywhere. Are you ready for the magic? In every industry, there comes a time when the norm suddenly changes. For Thai Boys Love, that moment happened when Billkin and PP Crit took the stage. Before them, most boys' love dramas followed a very clear formula: cute storylines, pre-made sweetness, and a little fan service to keep the audience engaged. The drama was entertaining, but it always felt like acting. Everything changed dramatically when Billkin and PP brought something completely genuine. It was as if two hearts suddenly became one on screen. When I Told Sunset About You first aired, audiences were amazed by the emotional immersion of the performances. In one scene, Billkin looked at PP with such a quiet gaze that you could hear fans gasp in reaction videos. The way PP smiled softly in response, his eyes filled with something that was clearly not acting, created a powerful and unforgettable moment for audiences around the world. Have you ever watched a scene and suddenly felt a chill down your spine because it was so real? That's exactly what happened with BKPP, and that was the moment the boys' love industry realized that it would never be the same again. From that moment on, a new standard emerged. The idea of fictional love transformed into real emotion. More importantly, it became the standard for many future actors. So let's look at that impact in more detail. After BKPP's breakthrough, actors across Thailand began to openly share how the duo changed their entire perception of acting in boys' love. In a 2021 interview, Z admitted that before filming his own romantic scenes with Noo-Noo, he watched behind-the-scenes footage of BKPP for inspiration. What impressed him most wasn't the script or the dialogue. It was the silence. The way Billkin and PP seemed to communicate simply through their eyes. They weren't trying to create chemistry, Z said. They just felt it. And that, for him, became a turning point. He realized that effective boys' love acting isn't about romantic acting. It's about allowing genuine emotion to exist between two people and letting the camera capture it. Similarly, First and Cao Tung openly shared at a fan meeting that BKPP was the first boys' love couple that made them believe that genuine connection in the genre was not only possible, but also the key to success. They said, "What Billkin and PP did was so brave. They showed their true feelings to the world without fear." It was that bravery that inspired them to be vulnerable and authentic in their work. Do you remember the first time you watched a boys' love scene and genuinely wondered if the actors were actually in love in real life? For most viewers, that moment came from BKPP. And once you feel that level of authenticity, it's almost impossible to accept anything less. This shift quickly affected the entire landscape. Directors began encouraging actors to spend time together off-set, not as a marketing ploy, but to build emotional trust, as Billkin and PP did during and after filming. Producers began prioritizing natural chemistry in auditions, rather than focusing solely on physical appearance. A producer from a major boys' love film company even mentioned in a 2022 interview that after BKPP, audiences will no longer accept fake romances. Actors themselves began approaching their roles differently, seeing them as an opportunity to explore genuine connections rather than as a pre-written fiction. The global response was equally strong. Fans from the Philippines, South Korea, Brazil, and even the United States began using the phrase BKPP effect to describe the rise of more authentic boys' love couples. On Twitter and TikTok, thousands of users began sharing comparison videos, analyzing the small gestures and subtle eye contact of the new couples alongside BKPP, with comments like, "Everyone is trying to recreate this authenticity." What do you think? Is this new standard a positive step forward for the film industry, or does it put too much pressure on new actors to show real emotion on screen? Does the BKPP effect raise expectations to unrealistic levels, or does it simply remind us that even fictional love stories should be grounded in real emotion? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Despite the mixed opinions, one thing is undeniable. Billkin and PP are not just acting out a love story. They are a living example of the power of two people stopping pretending and boldly showing their true selves in front of the camera. Many young actors have realized this and quietly decided to follow the same path. Ultimately, this is how a simple rumor became a new era. What started as a whisper, if only their love was real, ended up redefining the very meaning of boys' love. Today, a genuine emotional connection is not only accepted by fans, but expected. And that expectation was born from the moment Billkin PP chose sincerity over acting. So the question is, what really happened off-screen that made so many people believe their love continued after the final scene? And perhaps most meaningful of all, their story not only changed the way people watched boys' love, but also helped countless fans, especially in the LGBTQ+ community, feel seen, understood, and accepted. What if the love story between Billkin and PP Crit wasn't just fiction, but one of the hottest love stories in Asia right now? At first, it was easy to dismiss. It was just a casting notice. Two talented young actors cast in a boys' love drama, but the moment Billkin and PP Crit appeared on screen together, everything changed. Their eyes didn't just meet, they connected, as if some silent secret had passed between them. Gradually, fans began to whisper, this can't be just acting, right? But it didn't stop there. Behind the scenes, little details began to appear. During rehearsals, Billkin would instinctively help PP Crit fix the microphone. During interviews, PP Crit would quietly place a water bottle closer to Billkin without saying a word. No script, no camera direction. And then came what many fans now call the turning point, a leaked private rehearsal clip from their concert rehearsal. Billkin was singing while watching PP Crit dance, and smiling as if he'd forgotten anyone else was in the room. That moment alone was enough to convince thousands that something deeper was going on. A few weeks later, at a fan meeting in Chiang Mai, they shared an unexpected hug. No cameras, no staged moment, just a sincere, affectionate embrace. Fans in the front row held their breath, not out of surprise, but out of undeniable truth. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time a simple co-star hug made your heart skip a beat like that? But that's when things really started to get stronger. The bond didn't just touch their own lives, it started to change the lives of others. Young viewers from Thailand, the Philippines, Taiwan, and even Latin America have begun sharing how the story has touched their lives. Watching them act made me realize that loving the person you love is normal, one person wrote. I even used their story to come out to my parents. I made them watch the movie and told them, I feel the same way. A mother in Japan shared on social media after watching the couple together. I never really understood the experiences of the LGBTQ+ community, but seeing the connection between these two young men opened my eyes. I hugged my daughter and told her that she had the freedom to love whoever she chose. Billkin and PP Crit have never staged a romance or made grand public statements. They let their actions speak for themselves. From attending charity events for LGBTQ+ youth, quietly supporting mental health initiatives, to advocating for terminally ill children, they give without fanfare, letting their kindness shine through without ever turning it into a publicity stunt. At one event, PP Crit spoke to a small group of young LGBTQ+ students and told them, "You deserve to be happy, just like everyone else. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Here's another fan-recorded clip taken when they thought no one was looking. Billkin waits outside PP Crit's practice room late at night. No security, no spotlights, just waiting. When PP Crit finally comes out, Billkin pats him on the back and walks with him into the parking lot. Not a word is exchanged, but the comfort between them is undeniable. And the best part? It's not forced. It's not exaggerated. In fact, they keep most of their private moments private, which makes every interaction feel all the more meaningful. Is that really what two mere colleagues would do? After their series became a global phenomenon, the media scrutiny intensified. Reporters tried to provoke them. Are you two really dating? Is this just a marketing ploy? But neither of them took the bait. Billkin simply replied, "We care about each other, and we hope people can feel that." It wasn't a denial. It wasn't a compliment. It was a man quietly protecting something precious. Today, their story continues to inspire. LGBTQ+ organizations in Thailand have even cited their influence in campaigning for marriage equality, saying that Billkin and PP Crit's presence has opened the minds of generations. At the most recent fan meeting in Bangkok, a large banner was held up by the audience that read, "You made us believe in love again." And when Billkin saw the banner, he put his hand to his chest and looked back at PP Crit, his eyes filled with emotion. PP Crit nodded, almost as if he were saying, "Yes, we did it." A longtime fan said in a voice message, "It doesn't matter whether they confirmed the relationship or not. What matters is that they gave us hope. That alone is more real than any confession." If a love story can inspire millions of people, does it need an official label to be considered authentic? Because sometimes what touches the heart the most is not the confession, but the way a person quietly and firmly chooses you over and over again. Thanks for watching. If this story touched you even a little, don't forget to hit subscribe. It really helps our channel. Stay inspired, and I'll see you in the next one. Asia's most iconic couple is secretly dating in real life. Can you believe it? They keep saying it's all an act, but every glance, every gentle smile, every real-life moment is too real to ignore. Watch this video until the end, because the truth behind their relationship may shock you. Do you think this is just fan service? Or is there a real love story hidden? Let me know in the comments. It may sound unbelievable, but Asia's most iconic couple may have been hiding a true love story all this time. Today, we're taking a deep dive into one of the most controversial boys' love rumors. One that has sparked countless controversies, inspired millions of fan edits, and blurred the line between show and reality. But before we get to the heart of this story, let's go back in time and start at the beginning. Ji-woong is one of the most recognizable faces in Thai entertainment. Known for his chiseled features, calm demeanor, and commanding screen presence, he entered the spotlight as a model and quickly transitioned into acting. Over the years, he's become known for his bold roles and his undeniable chemistry with his co-stars. And then Noo-Noo appeared, with a fresh, lovely face, a gentle voice, and a natural charm. From the first moment he appeared on screen, Noo-Noo captured the hearts of the audience. Originally a singer before becoming an actor, he quickly stood out thanks to his innocent appearance and naturally charming stage presence, immediately becoming a true fan magnet. Both artists were on the rise separately, but when they were cast together in Cutie Pie, everything changed. From the very first press conference, things were different. It wasn't just two actors appearing together, and it certainly wasn't a mere marketing strategy. Their body language was comfortable and natural. Their smiles were genuine, not forced. Even the subtle way they stood, just a little closer than most on-screen couples, was enough to draw people's attention. From that moment on, the whispers began to flow. At first, fans thought it was simply good chemistry for the movie. But as promotions continued, rumors began to spread. Innocent glances quickly turned into affectionate glances. A polite hand on the shoulder turned into gentle touches at fan events. During live streams, Z would unconsciously glance at Noo-Noo every few seconds, and Noo-Noo would immediately burst out laughing whenever Z looked at him. Soon, people started asking the inevitable question, is this really just acting? Or is there something more? Could two actors share such natural chemistry without there being any real substance behind it? The more famous they become, the more people start to notice the signs. Fans have watched interviews where Z's facial expressions soften whenever Noo-Noo speaks up. During a fan meeting, Z instinctively grabbed Noo-Noo's hand to help him off stage, something he's never done with any of his co-stars. And if you watch Cutie Pie's behind-the-scenes footage, there's a clip of the director yelling, "Cut." But Z and Noo-Noo still look at each other, smiling for a few more seconds, as if they forgot the cameras were rolling. These aren't baseless assumptions. These are real interactions, recorded in public, viewed by thousands, and shared across massive boys love fan communities around the world. When two people act so comfortable with each other off script, can it really be called fan service? Or could it be a subtle sign that a potential love story is going on behind the scenes? Don't forget, in an interview, a reporter asked directly if they were together in real life. Z smiled and replied, "We are very close. Let's just say we understand each other better than anyone else." And Noo-Noo, he didn't deny it. He just bowed his head and smiled, the kind of smile people do when they have nothing else to say. The moment went viral. Since then, more and more fans have started collecting receipts. They noticed that the two often posted Instagram stories from the same location, just minutes apart. They attended the same private events, even when they weren't scheduled to film. And once during a live broadcast, Noo-Noo accidentally mentioned Z, using a Thai word that couples often use in intimate conversations, before immediately correcting himself. Was it a mistake? Or a silent confession? That's what makes this story so compelling. Two incredibly talented artists, at the height of their careers, surrounded by cameras, yet still giving us glimpses of something that could be much deeper than showbiz. And let's be honest, maybe that's why people can't take their eyes off each other. Because this isn't just a normal couple. It feels different. It might even be real. And even though they've never officially announced anything, the way they act around each other has millions of us waiting, watching, wondering. So what do you think? Are they simply pandering to fans, or are we actually witnessing a real-life love story unfolding before our eyes, carefully hidden from the spotlight? Stay tuned, because in the next part, we'll dive even deeper, analyzing each of the most compelling moments. By the end, you'll be able to decide for yourself. Is this just fan service, or something completely real? Are you ready? Can you believe that one of the most talked about love stories in Asian entertainment started with a quiet casting? In early 2021, Cutie Pie was just a script on someone's desk. Z, already a well-known actor in the boys' love industry, was contacted first. He read the script, agreed, and continued his normal schedule. At that time, Noo-Noo wasn't even on the casting list. He was still an unsigned rookie, auditioning for small roles and posting vocal covers on Instagram. But eventually, they were both invited to take the same chemistry test. That was the first time they met. Staff members later recalled that the room fell silent as soon as Z looked at Noo-Noo. Another actor had just finished reading his lines, but suddenly, the atmosphere changed. Even Z admitted in an interview he was completely different from anyone I had ever worked with. There was something gentle about him, and I can't explain why I wanted to get to know him better. It didn't sound like someone talking about just colleagues. Their first scene together wasn't a simple greeting. It was a dramatic confrontation in a coffee shop. Most people expected more takes, because remember, Noo-Noo had never acted on screen before. But then the director revealed something surprising. We only needed one take. Their eyes understood each other. From that moment on, things began to change faster than anyone expected. During rehearsals, Z naturally took Noo-Noo under his wing, guiding him, helping him find the right emotions. It initially seemed like a senior helping a junior, but just a few days later, they were on set late together, rehearsing an emotional scene long after the crew had gone home. No cameras, no audience, just them, and a line they repeated over and over until Noo-Noo finally smiled and said, "I get it." Z nodded. He didn't leave until he was sure Noo-Noo was okay. A few behind-the-scenes clips began to appear online. At first, it was just small things. Z waiting for Noo-Noo before leaving the set. Noo-Noo just laughed when Z made a joke. Z bought 2 iced coffees every morning. No one asked him to do it. He just did it. Does this still sound like someone who barely knows his co-star? Their first live stream together sent the fandom into a frenzy. Z's voice trailed off every time he turned to Noo-Noo. He laughed at even the smallest comments. One fan wrote, "I've never seen Z react like that to any other actor, ever." And it didn't stop there. At the first fan meeting in June 2022, during the closing speech, Noo-Noo suddenly burst into tears. The entire audience was completely silent. Z didn't hesitate. He walked straight up to Noo-Noo, put his hand on his shoulder, leaned in, and whispered something. Noo-Noo wiped away his tears and smiled. Fans called it the first public moment of consolation. You remember that moment? And did you notice that Z didn't even look surprised, as if he knew exactly what to say? During another live stream, Z accidentally called Noo-Noo by his real name, Chawarin, instead of his character name Kua. They both froze for half a second, then burst out laughing, trying to cover it up. Fans immediately recorded the moment and dubbed it "slip of the tongue." Because slips of the tongue only happen when something real enough to throw off the script. When the scene moved outdoors, the situation continued. Z stayed behind after his scene was done, not because he had more work to do, but simply to wait for Noo-Noo to finish. A production manager later confirmed that Z would quietly stand behind the monitor until Noo-Noo finished his last scene, and only then would they go home together. Honestly, how many co-stars do that? The more you dig into these little moments, the harder it becomes to believe that this was just good acting. But here's the real twist. When exactly did their relationship transition from work to personal? Was it the late-night rehearsals, the comfort of a fan meeting, or the chemistry test that brought the whole room to a halt? Are they really in love? Stick with me, because the answer may be more real than you think. Which first moment did you think hinted at something real? Was it the eyes, the comfort, or the slip of a real name? Can you really ignore these signs? Because at this point, it feels like we're no longer watching a promotional campaign, but a real love story unfolding, step by step, in front of millions of people. Make your coffee, sit back, and follow along with me. You'll probably start questioning everything you thought was just acting. On a typical evening, Z and Noo-Noo hop on a live stream, laugh, answer questions, read comments from fans around the world. Everything seems normal and harmless until that moment. Z looked at Noo-Noo with a completely relaxed expression and casually said "fain," which, you know, is the Thai word for lover, a word many fans interpreted as a possible hint about their actual relationship. No context. No jokes. He didn't correct himself. He just said it like it was the most normal thing in the world. Noo-Noo's reaction? He froze for half a second, blushed, then gave the softest smile he could muster. No denial, no, "No, we're not lovers." He accepted it. The clip went viral in minutes. Fans started sharing it on X, TikTok, even Weibo. And honestly, have you ever used the word lover for someone you had no emotional connection to? The interview felt like a confession. Think back to their interview with Woody. He isn't the type of host to sugarcoat the question. He gets straight to the point. When he asked about their future and whether they wanted to continue working together, Z paused. He looked at Noo-Noo, not at the camera, and said quietly, "We want to continue to be together and have fun doing it." You could hear the audience sigh. That wasn't a scripted answer. That wasn't a standard PR-approved answer. It sounded like someone had rehearsed that line in their head 1,000 times and finally decided to say it. And if you watch the interview closely, Noo-Noo never took his eyes off Z as he answered. It felt like they were sharing a private moment in public. This is where things really started to get interesting. Fans began sharing clips that were clearly not part of any official schedule, like Z quietly helping Noo-Noo carry his luggage at the airport, or the two sitting side by side at a small ramen shop in Tokyo at 11 p.m. No managers, no camera crew, just the two of them enjoying dinner and smiling at each other. Then there was the candid moment at Suvarnabhumi Airport, when Z gently put her arm around Noo-Noo's shoulder and pulled him closer as the crowd around them grew louder. There was something undeniably genuine about the way they acted when no cameras were watching. They weren't acting intimate, they were just living it. Actors can fake chemistry, but they can't fake the little instincts and habits that only develop over time. If you watch closely, you'll notice the subtleties. The way Noo-Noo leans in to whisper something to Z before stepping on stage, and the way Z's shoulders instantly relax, as if that one phrase always puts him at ease. Even at fan meets, when the crowd loudly chants "kiss," Noo-Noo doesn't stiffen or look to the staff for direction. He simply smiles and turns to Z, waiting for his reaction. These are moments that you barely notice at first, but when you put them side by side, they begin to reveal a picture that feels very personal and incredibly real. At a recent fan meeting, an audience member asked them to describe each other in one sincere word. Z could have chosen a safer word like talented, funny, or even kind. Instead, he paused, took a deep breath, and simply said, "He's my special someone." No hesitation, no joking, just a sincere, heartfelt statement. The room fell silent, and then erupted in cheers. Not because the moment was cute, but because it felt like an accidental confession in front of thousands. Noo-Noo didn't say a word in response. He just lowered his eyes and smiled softly, as if to say, "I know." If you're just an outsider, do you really believe that all of this is just acting? And be honest, where are you watching from right now? Thailand, America, or somewhere else entirely? More importantly, how did these real-life moments make you feel? Share your thoughts in the comments below and don't go anywhere. Because next, we're going to dive down a specific moment that even No Boys Love watchers admit was when they thought, wait, this can't be just acting anymore. Stay tuned. For many fans, all of these little moments started to feel less like fan service and more like something genuinely meaningful, even if nothing has ever been officially confirmed. Can you believe it? A love story that hasn't even been confirmed yet has changed the lives of thousands of people in real life. At first, it all seemed like a well-made romance. Two talented actors, beautiful cinematography, an engaging plot, and just the right amount of chemistry. For most viewers, this was the kind of movie you'd watch in the evening to unwind after a long day. A little escape, nothing more. But something happened that even the screenwriter couldn't have foreseen. As soon as the final episode ended, the audience didn't leave. They stayed. They stayed for the interviews. They stayed for the shows. They stayed to observe the little behind-the-scenes moments, the little smiles, the mischievous glances, the way they leaned closer when the other person spoke. And slowly, something beautiful began to blossom. People began to feel seen, not in a shocking or dramatic, but in a gentle, quiet, almost soothing way. For many, Z and Noo-Noo did something they rarely experienced in real life. They portrayed two people of the same sex as gentle, respectful, protective, and close to the point of not being afraid. A teenager from Chiang Mai wrote, "I used to think that same-sex relationships were always hidden and painful. But the way they looked at each other made me believe that love could be simple and beautiful for us too." Another fan from Quezon City shared, "I never thought I would tell anyone I was gay. But after watching them for a while, I suddenly wanted to be honest because they made me feel safe." This is the true impact of their story. Not a bold political statement, but a gentle, peaceful wave of acceptance. A slow trickle from heart to heart across borders, languages, and cultures. And that's exactly why it's so powerful. They never said, "Yes, we're a couple." But, and this is the important thing, they also never said, "No." They never called it a rumor. They never dodged the question. Instead, they smiled. They still stood next to each other. They still sang together. They still shared the same stage, the same microphone, the same umbrella when it rained. That's why people believed. And in a region where many LGBT+ people still fear rejection, their silence has become its own form of protection. A gentle shield that says, you don't have to hide your feelings. You don't have to apologize for who you love. That message doesn't need to be spoken. Sometimes it's much more powerful when lived. When two people choose to stand together, day after day, without fear, the world begins to change in small, almost invisible ways. And maybe that's why the story never fades. It's not just a rumor. It's a mirror of what so many people across Asia secretly want to believe. That same-sex love can be open, can be tender, can be proud, even without a grand declaration. So let me ask you, the person watching this right now, where are you from? And more importantly, how did you feel when you first saw them together? Was it just cute, or was there something in your heart that suddenly felt seen and understood? Honestly, I'd love to know. Because thousands of people have said the same thing. I didn't expect to be so moved. I was just watching a boys' love drama, but suddenly I felt like someone was finally showing me a version of love that was exactly like mine. That's the true power of this rumored love story. And the truth is, even if they never confirmed anything, what they did was more than enough. They created a world where thousands of young LGBT+ people felt seen, heard, and a little less alone. But this story isn't over yet. In the next section, we'll look at the exact moments that made fans absolutely convinced that something was really going on behind the scenes, including one very specific interview where a momentary hesitation barely longer than a heartbeat, sparked one of the biggest discussions in the entire fandom. So please don't leave just yet. Stay with me, because what happens next may completely change how you view their relationship. What was the moment that made you start to believe that this could be true? And how did that moment make you feel? Joyful, hopeful, excited, or even a little scared? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. It's hard to believe. Asia's most iconic hot couple might actually be sharing something in real life, even though they've never publicly confirmed it. It sounds like the beginning of a fan story, and yet the rumor has been circulating for over 2 years now, and it's never really died down. Every time they appear together, at award shows, fan meetings, brand campaigns, the question becomes more and more powerful. Why haven't they confirmed it? What exactly are they trying to protect? Today, we're not rehashing the rumors. We're going to take a deeper look at the real reasons behind their silence, and why that silence might be the answer. What many people don't realize is that the Thai entertainment industry is incredibly strict. Management companies closely monitor how artists speak, what they post online, and even how they appear in public. Once they become public figures, their private lives are no longer their own. They become part of the public's image. Now put all of this into the context of a rumored same-sex relationship, and the pressure immediately mounts. At that point, it's no longer just a case of two people dating. The real question is, how would brands, broadcasters, and traditional audiences react if two of the most famous male entertainers in the entertainment industry publicly admitted to a personal relationship? In fact, there are still major sponsors in Thailand who want their artists to maintain a familiar, traditional image. And some broadcasters tend to keep their distance when an on-screen partnership starts to look too natural in real life. So what happens? Management companies dictate what actors say. PR teams prepare neutral answers. Journalists are advised not to ask direct questions. And the simple truth remains: an official admission could cost them everything. So ask yourself, are you willing to risk everything you've worked so hard to build over the years, just to publicly say you love someone? Let's be honest, the boys' love market in Asia isn't just driven by scripts and acting. It has evolved into a massive fan service economy built on emotional fantasies. Management companies aggressively promote the couple image. Couple outfits at fan meetings, carefully choreographed accidental gestures, photo shoots that look almost indistinguishable from real wedding photos. And fans respond, not because they believe every moment is authentic, but because it allows them to feel something real. If only for a moment. It's because the possibility that it could be real helps maintain an emotional connection. The harsh reality. Once a couple publicly confirms their relationship, the fantasy of their relationship fades, and many fans simply lose interest. We've seen it happen before. Some actors who have been open about their relationships have quickly faced a drop in support, canceled events, and lost endorsement deals. The entertainment industry has noticed, and many have quietly concluded that sometimes silence is the safer path. So what do you think? Is it primarily the industry, or are audiences also contributing to this move? This is where things really get interesting. They never said we're dating, but they did drop subtle hints, like wearing matching bracelets in public or lyrics like "Nobody needs to understand, it's just you and me," that were released shortly after the rumors broke. In an interview, one of them said, "It's easy to say, but sometimes the truth is better protected." In a live stream, the other added with a smile, "Who knows?" These weren't fan edits. They were real moments shared by thousands of people. They didn't deny, they didn't confirm. They simply changed the question from, "Are we dating?" to, "Do we really need to say it?" And maybe, That says more than any confirmation ever could. So what do you think? Is this still just acting? Or is silence the only way to protect something sincere? Now that we understand why they haven't gone public yet, what real-life moments do fans consider real-life evidence? Stay with me. The story's about to get even more real. Can love exist without a name? That question has echoed throughout the fandom since the beginning. It started slowly. A few soft glances captured in behind-the-scenes footage, a gentle hand on the shoulder during an interview, an unexpected smile when one of them mentioned the other's name. One clip became two became thousands. Suddenly, a whole tweet chain emerged where fans compared timelines, analyzing every tiny moment with detective precision. But here's the thing. These weren't heavily edited fan-made clips. These were official live streams, press interviews, award shows. This was the real thing. And despite all that attention, the two never tried to distance themselves. Other celebrities might have tried to avoid the spotlight or minimize their interactions. Ji and Noo-Noo were the opposite. They continued to attend events together. They took on more joint projects. They looked completely comfortable standing next to each other, even as the crowd screamed, "Kiss! Kiss!" At the 2023 Thai Content Awards, there was a moment that fans still talk about to this day. Noo-Noo was accepting an award, and Ji wasn't required to go on stage, but he did. He stood there quietly, waiting for Noo-Noo to finish speaking, and gently placed his hand on his back. There were no lines. There was no musical. But for millions of viewers online, it was the moment the rumors began to take on a much deeper meaning. And then came the music. They recorded songs together, including some that were straightforward about loving someone you shouldn't love. When asked about the lyrics, they both smiled and said, "We just wanted to sing something honest." Again, no denial, no over-explaining, just being honest. That ease turned them into something much bigger than just a ship. They became icons. For many fans, especially younger fans, exploring their identities, the way Ji looked at Noo-Noo on stage felt like permission. Permission to imagine that one day they too could be loved in the same natural way. That they could be seen, not questioned. And that's why it doesn't matter whether the rumor is true or not. What matters is how the story touched people's hearts. Even the international media has begun to take notice. Several boys' love reviewers in the US and Europe have openly said that the couple's buzz is one of the main reasons why the genre is now more respected, because their relationship feels genuine, natural, and deep. And perhaps that's the real message here. Love isn't defined by grand declarations or flashy labels. It's reflected in the quiet sincerity people show when they believe no one is watching. And despite the millions of eyes watching, Ji and Noo-Noo continue to interact with each other as they always have, with genuine sincerity. Do you think they're intentionally choosing to stay silent to protect something real? Or do you believe this is simply the most convincing professional pairing we've ever seen? Do their actions show you something new about love, even without a label? Because whether or not the rumor ever becomes official, one thing is clear. Their story has helped normalize same-sex attraction in public, and that alone is powerful. Maybe real love doesn't need a name. Maybe all it needs is a heart-touching emotion, even if it's just through a screen. What do you think? Is this just a fan prank? Or is it a real love story quietly unfolding before our eyes? Let me know what you think in the comments, and together, let's continue to share stories that bring hope, comfort, and a little love into the world. Please keep in mind that all of these observations are based on publicly available footage and interviews, and nothing has been officially confirmed by either of them. And if this story made your heart feel even a little bit warm, please consider subscribing and staying with this channel. Because sometimes, after a long day, what we truly need isn't another headline or a crazy plot twist. It's simply a reminder that real love still exists, even if it's hidden in the smallest moments. They've never confirmed anything, that's true. But their eyes, their gestures, and that gentle silence between them have already given thousands of people across Asia a sense of hope, comfort, and visibility. So how about you? Where are you watching from? And which moment made you think, wait, maybe this isn't just acting anymore? Share your thoughts down in the comments. I truly want to hear your story. Thank you for staying until the very end of this video. I hope you continue to find little moments of kindness, whether it's in a glance, a smile, or in stories like this one. See you in the